Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away. Move to the groove and the light that flickers. We get lost in the crowd, it's getting thicker. We get away from the drinks and chatter. Haven't said a word, but it doesn't matter. Feel the air get thinner. I'm standing in a blurry dream. No one else can see us. Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away. Thinner. I'm standing in a blurry dream. No one else can see us. So let us dance this night away.
Good evening and welcome to Be More Super Live. I'm Brian, your host, and this week we're joined by a guest that I've been trying for many, many years. It's the wonderful Aaron Ashmore. Aaron, welcome to the show, sir.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. Sorry it took so long for me to get my butt onto your show, but I'm very happy to be here now.
And I'm so excited. And we nearly had a cameo by your pet cat, which...
Oh, she's here. Where? There she is.
Bless. And what's her name?
This is Callie.
Oh, and how many have you got? Are you a proper cat man?
Yeah, I've only got one now, but we many years ago we rescued her mother and 3 kittens, and we found homes for 2 of the kittens, and then we kept the mother, Freya, and Callie here. But Freya passed away last year. But she was an old cat. She was a sweet old.
I mean, we've got 3 cats, and one. Well, we did have 4, but one passed away a few months ago. But I've even got a cat dad mug. Do you know what I mean? This is what I get from my girls. Yeah, this is what I get from my girls for Christmas, and I'm like, oh, I need to be a bit more manlier. But cats are nice. They're a bit selfish, but they're all right. but
that's what I like about them. I once heard somebody say that. How did it go? Something about like dogs being, obviously they're very, they love you and whatever, but cats, you have to be okay with them finding their own timing and so it's just different styles of loving, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, even though we pay the mortgage and pay the bills, the cats still walk around like they own the house and they, own everything, which I'm fine with because we've got very cute cats.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It works for me.
But what is great is season 3 of SKYMED is now hitting the waves in Canada and very, very soon will be on Paramount Plus. And this show, literally, I've fallen in love with since the beginning of series 1. And as people can imagine, when they watch my show, they can see I've had quite a lot of the cast on. So let's rewind right to the beginning. I mean, how did you get involved with SkyMed? I mean, how was it presented to you?
Well, I was working on a show called Lock and Key at the time. I've been quite busy, and my agent sent me a breakdown for a new show called SkyMed, and I looked over a role that there was a role that was casting for the role of Weezer, and I saw it, and I thought, oh, that's like a fun role. And I looked at who was involved, and Julie Puckrin, who is the creator and showrunner, who was a writer on a show called Killjoys that I did for many years. And Vanessa Piazza is the producer, executive producer, and I had worked with her on a couple shows too, one called Lost Girl and one called 13, and maybe some other stuff, but those are the ones that I remember. And I just said to my agents, look, these two women know me very well, my work. We've worked together. I like this role. Why don't you just kind of pitch them and see if they're interested in me for it? Because I'm not going to go read. They know me. If they're just like, yeah, we don't think it's really, a right fit for you. So, my agents just got in contact and said, you guys, would you be interested in Aaron for this role? Is it something that you could see him playing? And I think we waited a couple weeks, but after that, I got a call saying, yeah, we'd actually really love for Aaron to come play this role. So it happened very easily, and it was really, well, I don't know, I guess nepotism's not the word, but it's connections, right? It's who you know, who
Hmm.
you work with. Sometimes those things can really pay off. And in this particular situation, it did.
I mean, not to veer off from SkyMed. You mentioned Lock and Key just then. Are you a
Mhm.
believer in destiny? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I do believe that things happen for things that happen are meant to happen, all that stuff. Yeah, for sure. I do
Because
believe,
I was
just
watching, yeah, I mean, I was watching an interview that you did 11 years ago at a Comic Con, and the presenter there said to you, "What are you reading at the moment?" And then straight away out of your mouth came Lock and Key, which is
yeah.
really bizarre. Many years later, you're starring in this big Netflix show. So I want to carry on that sort of. I want to recreate it. So, what books are you reading at the moment? And let's try and manifest maybe your future
Okay.
career.
Right now, I'm not really reading any comics or graphic novel stuff right now, but I am reading a series called Red Rising series. I don't know the author right off the top of my head, but it's a great sort of it's kind of Game of Thrones meets the Hunger Games, and it's this big sprawling sort of space opera type thing. That's kind of what I'm into. I like sci-fi, I like fantasy stuff, and that's I think there's 5 or 6 books in the series, and it's called the Red Rising series, and it's really really great. So I'm actually on the last book of the series. I'm trying to read it a little slowly so I can make it last a little bit longer.
Yeah, you don't want it to end. You don't want it. So let's fingers crossed that if this book gets taken and changed into a TV show, they give you a call because I believe that could happen for you. So let's talk about Weezer because Weezer is a character I really resonate with because Weezer seems to be the person that ends up getting himself into situations, by accident. And he thinks, my word, how the hell have I got into this situation? I mean,
Well, I can
how has Weezer's character grown and changed over the seasons for you?
Hugely. I mean, when I came onto the show, Weezer was, I think he was in maybe 4 or 5 of the episodes and was kind of the mentor, I guess, in a certain way to some of the pilots, but he didn't have a huge role in the show. He was sort of the guy that was kind of telling them, you got to do this, got to do that. Welcome to the house, da da da, all that kind of stuff. So I did not know where this character was going. So to go into season 2 and to become a romantic lead for with Haley with Natasha, I did not see that coming in season 1 at all. And him becoming chief pilot as well and having like all this responsibility was a big change and a big step up for the character as well. And then I think into season 3, it's even more so. They promoted me to a season regular, so I'm around a lot more and have a lot more to do. So I didn't necessarily see that growth was going to happen in the character. I don't know if they had plans for it or if it was just like, hey, this makes sense. Sometimes I think writers and great writers can see what's happening and what's clicking, what's working, and then they kind of adjust things. But that being said, Julie may have always had this plan to have him become the chief pilot and become a bigger part of the show. But that was unbeknownst to me. I thought it was just sort of like a small reoccurring role on the show, which but it turned into a lot more.
I mean, the writing on this show is amazing. Every episode, I swear, that could be made into a whole season. I mean, if I'm right in saying your sort of start in this show, you get injured quite badly. Your back. And I've got to say, season 3, not to throw out any spoilers, but you get a naked man fall on you. And for
What?
me,
Twice.
for me, the first reaction was, "Oh no, he's back." You know what I mean? And it's like, why? I should have been laughing, not concerned. But I mean, what's been the most challenging scenes to film? Because it's quite a high octane show. You know, it's always keeping you on the edge of your seat. You don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, have you got a favorite scene that was quite challenging to film?
Well, the challenging thing, the most challenging scenes, not that like when you read them on the page, it doesn't necessarily seem like that, but the flying stuff is actually quite difficult. There's limited space in there. There's limited angles that they can shoot from because of just the logistics of it. So it's a very difficult place to shoot. It's quite cramped. And also, we're supposed to be pilots, so I want to make it look like we know what we're doing, and that is sometimes more difficult than you would imagine, because it's like it all cuts together really well, but it can be difficult trying to really sell those flying scenes and really making sure that we're trying to look like we know what we're doing. So those are actually, to be honest with you, the most difficult stuff. Some of the rescue stuff is wild, but again, because I'm not a nurse, I'm more of a pilot. I don't have to do a lot of the like really difficult, crazy stuff where the nurses are having to, all the crazy medical speak and doing all that stuff. The pilots kind of dodge that. So our difficult stuff would be in the plane, I would say, most of the time.
And in season 3, am I right in saying you had paramedic Steve? Is it Steve?
Uh, Yeah, I don't know if Steve was on third season. Steve worked a bunch with us. Again, because I don't do the paramedic stuff, I'm less sort of tuned in to doing rehearsals and stuff. But yes, there was a Steve, and I don't remember seeing him around a bunch in season 3. But that might have just been like not the times I was there. But yes, there's a consultant. We have to have consultants, right, for this stuff. So it it makes us look like we kind of know what we're doing.
Well, it looks like you know what you're doing because I can't fly anything anyway. So, for me,
There you
you're doing a wonderful job. I just wanted to put up there a comment from Dan Law. I think I can speak for all of us when I say more Weezer each season has been awesome,
go.
which
Thank
is
you, man.
great.
Thank
Which is
That's
great.
really, really, yeah, I
Um,
appreciate that.
and then obviously, the relationships, amongst the cast seem wonderful on screen. And I know that you all get together off screen. So what's life like to be part of the SkyMed crew when you're not filming? I mean, do you get up to, some crazy things, partying, or is it a case of just like literally bed at 10 o'clock with a hot chocolate?
Well, listen, I am the old guy out of the crew. I mean, I'm 45 years old, and some of the cast are still in their mid 20s. So, um, especially I think in the first season when I started in the show, I wasn't there a bunch. I think we were shooting in Winnipeg that year, and everybody was out of town, staying in the same um, like apartment building, condo building. So I think the first year there was a lot of partying and a lot of going out and socializing. Everybody's getting to know each other. I did a little bit of that, but the first season I felt like the old guy. I felt like a bit of not an outsider, but I was like, oh, these guys don't want to hang out with an old guy. But then the second season we moved to a town called North Bay, which is about 3 hours north of Toronto. So it's pretty remote, small town, beautiful. Love working there. But so there's less to do, I would say, in North Bay. But yeah, people still get together, but we're all professionals, right? Like when I was in my mid 20s, I was a party machine. Even when I was working, I was going out, like just go, 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 go. I think this generation of actors, or at least the ones that I'm working with, are much more responsible, much more focused, and much more, yeah, professional than I was in my 20s. So I think we have a good time, but we don't go crazy. I'll put it that way.
Darn it. So no goss
Yeah,
there.
I know.
No
Well,
exclusives. But I mean, you mentioned the places where you filmed. And in the UK, literally, we don't have any wild animals. I think the most dangerous thing we have is called a hedgehog, which is a small, little, spiky thing. I mean,
They look, but they're very dangerous, right?
yeah. But did you encounter any animals when you were filming? Because there are quite wild animals in Canada.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've was it on? Yeah, when one place we were shooting this year, they have this really big, I don't know what it is. I want to call it like a Tibetan Mastiff or something. One of these like crazy big dogs that they had that had actually like protective gear on it to basically just watch out for bears. Like if there was bears coming, it would signal and bark and all that sort of stuff, which was a little frightening. We didn't have any issues, but it's just a over precaution, I guess. We are working out in the wilderness a lot, and when you drive in the evenings in the summertime, certain parts of the year, there's huge moose that can come out onto the road. A friend of
Yeah, I've
mine
seen
actually,
videos. Yeah.
yeah, a friend of mine a few years ago, driving from North Bay, where we shoot, back to Toronto in the evening or late at night, actually hit a moose. He was totally fine, but so yeah, there's wildlife out there, and you do have to, take care, or you can be in big trouble.
So he was perfectly fine, but I bet the car wasn't, because
The
moose
car
are
was not, and I don't think
enormous.
the boot was either. I think
Mm.
he hit it pretty hard. But a lot of people, they're so big that a lot of people die when you hit a moose. Just they're so
Mm.
massive. It's not like a deer that goes careening off. It'll come smash right through where you're sitting and crush you. So it's no
Wow.
joke up here in northern
So, some
Canada.
safety tips here for anyone visiting Canada: be careful of the moose, because that's one place I've never been. I've been all over America, but I've never been to Canada, and I've always wanted to. When I was a kid, I watched a show called Due South, and it had a
Oh yeah, I,
Canadian Mountie in it.
I did an episode of Due South when I was a kid.
No way! That is
Yeah,
awesome.
I don't even think I had a line. I think it was like literally, I opened a door and the Mountie was there, or something like that. I can't remember what it was. It was a long, long time ago. But yeah,
Oh
yeah, it
wow.
was a great.
Oh wow. Well, to be fair, your IMDb is literally, I know I've got some logos there on the screen. And literally, we could fill this screen completely up with logos with us just peeking out in front of it. So let's talk about Weezer and the personality of Weezer. Is there anything of his character that mirrors you as a person? I mean, how much of Weezer is Weezer and how much of it is you?
Well, there's always something of myself that I bring to characters like that. I enjoy that. That to me is the only way that I know to act. Is obviously the characters are not exactly me, but I always try and pull something from myself into that's how I can kind of relate to it and sort of ground it a bit. I think Weezer's a bit of a smartass, and I can certainly be that. I can crack the jokes and sarcastic and stuff like that. I also Weezer, I think on some level is a bit stunted as an adult. Like I think now he's stepping into his being an adult and taking responsibility. But I think maybe on some level I feel like that too. Maybe it's just the career that I chose. Playing make believe all the time and not having the routine of a lot of people that I know. 9 to 5. Just these sort of routines makes me sort of feel at times that I've stalled a little bit in my own maturity. That being said, I kind of like it. So, but yeah, I think just that sense of humor, I really lean into, and I can relate to that. And yeah, maybe just a slight level of, you know, emotional immaturity, let's say.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, obviously, I mean, we spoke about your training to be a pilot. I mean, what sort of things did you have to do? Did you have to actually learn how to fly? Because I can imagine there are going to be pilots out there that's probably going to be messaging you, going, "You don't do that." I mean, how
Well,
much training did
uh,
you actually do?
we did sit down with I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. A really awesome gentleman. So Julie, our the showrunner and creator, her sister is a nurse, or was a nurse, and her now husband is a pilot. So that's kind of what the show was based on, was her sister and her brother-in-law. So they sort of consult on the show, sat us down, walked through everything. If we have any questions about what we need to do in the scenes, we can always call and check to be, and some of the actors are a little more um, into getting things perfect, so they may have more questions and really want to dial things in. So that's basically it. We didn't actually get to fly. We did sort of, they created like a fake cockpit or like a mock pit, I guess, is, like a mock up, and
Yeah.
where all the things were, kind of sit and get an idea even before we got to the plane, because once you get into the plane, it's so cramped that it's more difficult. So yeah, the first couple seasons we did a lot of that. We did a lot of breaking down the scenes and making sure that we hit all the right points in the script that they wanted to. And then, as seasons go, you get a little more comfortable with it. You kind of know where things are, so it takes a little bit less of that. So, but yeah, it's important. It's important to all of us to make it look as real as we can, given the circumstances.
And have you got a shining moment of Weezer? A scene that you just think was fantastic. I've got a picture actually of you as Weezer there. Ready? There we go. Look. Oh, look at that
Sorry.
picture.
Yeah.
So, have you got a shining moment, a certain scene that you just think, do you know what? This is the best scene that I've done as Weezer?
Well, there's lots of scenes that I've really really enjoyed. Let's just say that I believe it's episode 6 of season 3, that is so great. It's so creative, and Weezer is sort of at the forefront of a lot of it. And I think there's going to be some great stuff in that episode. That's the one that I'm really looking forward to seeing this season. And everybody gets to shine and really step it up a notch in episode 6. So I'm gonna reserve my favorite moments and my favorite episode for that one. So it hasn't come out yet. I still haven't seen it, but from what I remember shooting it, I think it's gonna be one of the best of the series.
And the thing I like about the show, and I keep on saying it, there's no such thing as small characters. The way it's written, I think, is beautifully, because you've got all these stories going all at once, and you get invested as an audience member in every single one, which I think is fantastic. Why do you think SkyMed stands out amongst all the other content out there? Because it's such a great show, and we are flooded with content. Some not great at all, and some
Yeah.
are really good. So why do you think this show stands out to many?
Well, I think one of the great things that it has going for it is the northern element. To me, I think it's beautiful and I think it's unique. Not to say that there haven't been a lot of shows set in the north and sort of showcasing that, but I think that they do a great job of showing the landscapes, also showing the communities, the northern Canadian communities, and representing them in a cool light, which I don't think always happens. Um, I would also say that to me, SkyMed is sort of like a network show in a sense, where it's sort of got all these ensemble things and a lot of storylines going. But I think it's a little bit different, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's a slightly Canadian touch or just the people that happen to be involved with it. But I think it is very unique. And like you said, I think it's really easy to get hooked into not just the action and all the interesting, medical and emergencies, but also these characters. And I think a lot of shows try and do that to meld those things, but I think SkyMed does a really, really good job of melding all of that together. And again, there's always people, I sometimes follow things online on Twitter. People react. Some people love certain relationships. Some people hate certain relations. Like
Mm.
it's all what you like. And I think that there's a little bit of something in the show for anybody. You could love it all, or you may just really love certain aspects of it, certain characters, certain dynamics. But I really do think that there's something for everybody.
And do you think there's a future for Weezer and Haley? Because you know, I think they suit each other very, very well. Let's put the age aside, because people can get ageist when it comes down to relationships.
Well, I
And
was when I heard it, I was like, is this too old to be acceptable in this day and age? I know obviously in the past that was probably not such a big deal, but I was like, we got to be sensitive with that. And I mentioned that to Julie. And also I was like, and I'm sort of in this position of power now that I'm chief pilot. Is this kosher? And she's like, you're not her boss. You're the pilot's bosses. And love finds love. People find love where they can, where it fits. And we're up north. There's not that many people, so maybe this is something that makes sense.
so there you
But
go.
I
Another
like the time.
again, another tip, watch out for mooses and go high up in Canada if you're single, because
Yeah,
you're going to
yeah,
get a
there's
better
not a lot of
chance.
company. There you go. That's it.
Excellent. I mean, this show has got so many great characters, but if you, for one day, for one episode, swap character, which character would you want to be in the show other than Weezer?
You
And
know who I really, really like the character, and again, because it's not like me, and I when I see him play it, I'm just like, I don't know how he does it. Is Thomas playing Milos? He's so kind of tough on some level and kind of surly, but then he can be so sort of romantic and loving to Tristan, all this stuff. So I actually really like that character. I think it's a very interesting character, and I think Thomas plays it really, really well. I don't think I could play it as well as him, but that is a character that I always um, enjoy watching, and it's just something very different from what Weezer is or what I normally do that I just respect.
And this is what I like about the show, because they've got so many sort of they're representing so many different parts of the community in this show, but they're not doing it in a way that it's a tick box exercise. Do you know what I mean? It's like these stories. So with Lexi, and her relationship, I just think's beautiful to watch, and it's just great. It
Yeah.
really, really is. I mean, how has working on this show helped prepare you for a real life emergency? Do you feel that if you were in the wilderness, how long would you be able to survive?
Well, one thing I know about myself, and this is nothing to do with the show because I don't think it has really prepared me, but I'm very calm in an emergency. Very calm. Then after the fact, I freak out, but in the moment of something happening, I'm actually quite calm. That being said, to survive out in the wilderness, very, very little time. I'd be toast. I think I don't have the survival skills or the hunting skills or any of that kind of stuff. Um, but I should maybe work on it. We spend a lot of time up north. Maybe I should, try going out camping and seeing if I can, make it work. If you read something on the Brian, about an actor, Canadian actor, having to be rescued from the wilderness, this because of this conversation. So just you got to take some responsibility for.
And it would be ironic if it was a SkyMed plane that had to come and rescue you. Those real life nurses and pilots, they would make a meal of it. They really, really would. Do you feel that we will see a season 4? Because me and Mercedes, we did manifest it when she was last on last year. So do you feel that we'll get a season 4, because it's such a great show and it's already past the season 2 mark?
I think that there's many more stories to be told in this universe. I think it's great because and they've done a great job of it, of every season introducing a few new characters to keep things fresh and keep new dynamics. So I think it could have that. I think there's stories to be told. Let me put it that way. As far as will we, it's so up in the air. I mean, we finished in June, I guess, shooting, or July, and the other couple years, I think we were airing like especially on Paramount, it aired quite early, and so we found out now it's January, February, and we don't even know when it's going to air on Paramount. So now that's not to say that that bodes badly. That could just be a scheduling thing, but Paramount puts up most of the money for the show, so it needs to air there first before we can find out. So that's where I'm just like, I don't know. We really just have to wait for Paramount to decide when they want to air it, and then usually, they because it's a streaming thing, they don't have to wait for separate releases. They know how it's doing quite soon after that, and they can pull the trigger if they want. So I'm really hoping for it, but I think we are going to have to wait till it airs on Paramount Plus first, and then give it a little time before we're going to know anything.
Well, fingers
Keep you
crossed, because it's a great show. It keeps getting better with each season, and the stories just keep on getting better. Oh, we've got a little cat there. Yeah, so I wanted to ask as well. I wanted to go quickly onto Smallville. Look at that. He's making.
I'm going to try and get her tail up. Yes, let's talk
There's a
Smallville.
picture of you
Oh, look,
in
I popped
Smallville.
right up.
Sorry?
Yep. Yeah, it just popped right up there. That's incredible.
Yeah, it
You got
popped.
great graphics.
Instantly, I'm prepared. Smallville, I can remember when it came out. I watched it from the very beginning. to the very end, I was invested because I'm a big Superman fan. I've said it on the show before. I've got two little daughters, one called Lois and one called Cara. So,
Wow.
and we've even
Oh
got a
wow.
cat,
All right.
and we've even got a cat called Clark. so, so my
Amazing.
wife has given me that. She didn't say no because she's a big Superman fan as well. So
Okay,
playing
good.
Jimmy Olsen in Smallville made you instantly a fan favorite straight away as soon as you appeared on the show. What was your favorite part of bringing the character to life? Because he's quite an iconic figure.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite moments on the show were few and far between, but it was the moments where Clark and Jimmy really had some sort of connection. And there's some great moments where I actually watched it. I don't know, maybe I don't know where I saw it. It was like a clip or something. I was going through YouTube and I saw some Jimmy Olsen clips, and there's a great scene where Jimmy finally finds out that Clark, or puts it together that Clark is Superman, and he's got this kryptonite thing stuck in him, and Jimmy pulls it out, and all this stuff, and he's putting it together, and I just thought that was such an iconic scene of the two of them really like connecting, and because we didn't get a lot of that in the show, it was supposed to be
Mm.
before those elements. So all those teases of those moments I thought were really, really special because they sort of set up what we know was going to be this their dynamic and their relationship. Also, when I read that scene where I found out that he was, or put together that he was Superman, I was like, well, there goes Jimmy. I knew that that wasn't going to last. So I was like, well, he's got to go now if he's figured that out. So, but yeah, I think that those were my favorite scenes. I really enjoyed those. And working with Erica too, some of the Lois Jimmy stuff I thought was really fun. Their sort of, older sister, younger brother dynamic, I think played really well when we got a chance to do that. So yeah, I don't know. It was a great experience though.
I mean, you're no stranger to Comic Cons, and I can imagine a lot of people have come up to you to get like pictures like this signed. I mean, what is the one question that you wish was always going to be asked but never was about you in Smallville?
Oh, that's it. Well, the one thing that people come up and ask a lot and talk about a lot is like, well, you got ripped off. You weren't the real Jimmy Olsen. Like you didn't turn out to be, that type of thing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's true. There's always lots of questions about that. The one question that I wish I didn't get at conventions is, are you Sean Ashmore? Because the answer is always no. And that happens a lot, especially because Sean was on Smallville too a little bit. So we have a fun game at conventions, Sean and I, where we started to keep score of how many people came up thinking we were the other person. And we keep a little, and then we take a photo of that and we send it to the other person at the end of the weekend. It's like, there was 42 people who thought that I was you this weekend. And then when Sean's at a con, he'll do the same thing. So we kind of have fun with that. It's a fun little game that
Yeah, because
like
it's
to play.
crazy. Because I read somewhere that Sean went for the part of Jimmy Olsen in Superman Returns, but it went
I
to
think he
Sam
was
Huntington.
Yeah, I think he was originally offered that role, or they were talking about it, but because Fox or whoever, because of the even though they weren't really in conflict, I think Fox or whoever said, because he was still doing the X-Men stuff, was like, no, you can't do both. And I think that might have been a bit of a, because
Mm.
Bryan Singer had been doing those and then went to do, like also like sometimes the business gets caught up in it. That being said, Sam Huntington is a very, very good friend of my brother and me too. So it's like, it's a very small world, and it's really cool that he and I have both got to play Jimmy Olsen around the same time too. It was sort of, they're kind of crossed. I think that movie Superman Returns and me being on Smallville, I think kind of happened around the same time. So it was pretty cool.
I mean, I love that movie. I love Superman Returns. Brandon Routh, I thought was amazing as Superman. But passionate fans out there, they're not scared of giving their opinions over.
No,
But for me,
about anything.
Sorry.
About anything, yeah, any show,
Yeah.
anything. People are happy to tell you how much they think you suck or you screwed up, or you're not good at this. Yeah, there's no lack of
Mm.
communication by fans for sure.
But for me, as long as the cape is still flying and they're still making them, you know what? That's great. Do you know what I mean? I mean, have you had like obviously, you know, you got? I think I've got a question here from someone that put it on Instagram. Let me just find it to put it on. Um, Josh loves movies. One, his name is. Ask him what was it like to be killed off in Smallville. Need to know. I mean, when you actually read that you were going to be killed off, I mean, was it a case of you receiving the script, or was it a phone call to let you know?
No, the sort of the showrunner on in Vancouver brought me into his office and said, "Hey, so as you know, the show has some restrictions as far as what we can do, and to keep it in line with what DC or whatever whoever was in charge wanted to keep it. And one of the things is that this is not actually the timeline where Jimmy would have been alive. So, and that was something that they were like, yeah, you can't be this young, or at least this is what I was told. We can't have this like young Jimmy. That's not really what it's set up. Clark and Jimmy meet later on when, in life, when Clark is older and whatever. So I said, okay, but the whole time they told me that I was Jimmy Olsen. I was doing interviews. What's it like to play the iconic Jimmy Olsen? And then after 3 years, I was like, ugh, all those interviews, all that stuff was just kind of a big waste of time in a way, because I'm not really that character. That being said, they did bring me back in the final episode to play for one scene with Erica, with Lois, to play Jimmy Olsen in that sort of ending stuff. So I think they did right by the fans in that respect, because again, some people didn't really love Jimmy on the show, but a lot of people did, and people were pissed. They thought it was a bit of a cop out, the way he went out and stuff. But I understand it. Sometimes there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, legally, business stuff, than the fans or even the actors are really partial to. So it always sucks to get killed off of something, but again, you got to make the death scene count. And I think that the death scene in that was great. He got to be a hero, save Chloe from Doomsday, and died in the process, but died a hero. So you can't really go wrong with that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being killed off. There are actors out there that make their career on being killed off in everything. You know what I mean? There's an actor called Xander Berkeley that literally, I think he's been killed off 43 times. In shows from 24 to Walking Dead. So good for him. You know what I mean? There's a career to be had.
He's got a niche. He's got
exactly. So the cast of this show, I've got to say, Michael Rosenbaum. Michael Rosenbaum was the reason why I started this show, because during the pandemic,
doing his podcast on Wednesday, his Inside of Me podcast, I'm doing Wednesday. Yeah. So I'll be talking to him. So I'll say hi, and I'll even pass that information on to him. That
is awesome, because you know what, I listen to all his shows. I think he's a fantastic podcast host, and I like how he can get to the nitty gritty of things, but make it sound like he's not being too nosy. And for me, I love how he ends his podcasts. Thank you for being inside of you, or something like that. And I'm like, oh, that is risque.
But that's Michael, though. Like, he likes those little. He's a very funny, very humorous guy. So yeah, it's all lighthearted, right? It's not. It's all for fun.
Well, you're going to have fun there for definite. I mean, obviously, we could go on for ages talking about Smallville, but what I want to know is, did you keep anything from the set? Did you keep anything? Have you kept anything from SKYMED or any of the projects that you've been on as like mementos?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. From Smallville, I have my chair back. They make your chair back. So it's Aaron Ashmore and Jimmy Olsen. I have a really cool chair back from Warehouse 13. I don't know if you've seen that show.
It's amazing.
It's a great show. Really, really love being part of that one. There's like a metronome that brought me back to life. My character died, and then there's this artifact that kind of brings him back to life, this metronome. So I got to keep the metronome from that show. A show called Killjoys that I did, which is where I originally met Julie, who created SKYMED. I got all sorts of great stuff. I got my sort of like belt with my laser pistol and like my leather jacket and all this stuff. So I try and keep little things, but it's usually when the show is completely done. So I'm trying to think if I got anything from Lock and Key. I don't remember if I'd got anything from Lock and Key. I separately have like collected a bunch of the keys. There's a company that makes all like these beautiful replicas of the keys, so I actually own a bunch of those. And then SkyMed, when we wrap, I'll probably try and get something. I get probably my blue jumpsuit if I can get it. It's so iconic to like the show. We all wear these blue jumpsuits, so that's something that I would probably like to get from SkyMed if they'll let me when the show's done.
Well,
Hopefully
you've
not too
earned
soon.
it.
Hopefully.
You were, yeah. The fact that you can't get it yet is a good sign because that means
I
potentially
totally
you're going to
agree.
be doing some more. Warehouse 13. Who is the man? I forgot his name now. The lead.
I well, there's Eddie McClintock, who
That's it.
was
Yeah.
the yeah, yeah.
So I met him at a convention, and he's the nicest bloke I've ever met at a
Oh,
convention. Like he gave free
oh,
hugs, free pictures,
oh,
and then
he's
obviously you pay for the
love
autograph. But yeah,
yeah, he loves people, and I think he just felt so like accepted in that community. Like with this show, it became a huge hit, and people really loved him. And I think he really just embraced that and really appreciated that people cared enough to be a big fan of the show. And yeah, he's great at conventions. Everybody loves him.
and have you got any conventions lined up? Because I know you've done plenty of them, but
Yeah.
are you coming over to the
Uh,
UK?
I've been a few times, 3 or 4 times. I think something called Star Fury, and then I
I
did
know,
a
and I
like
missed
a
that
big
one. Yeah, I
yeah
missed it. Yeah,
MGM. I don't know, another big one years and years ago. But I'm Chicago. There's a I believe it's in September this year. It's strictly Smallville, like it's just a Smallville con, and I believe it's in Chicago in September, I believe. So that will be fun. We did another one in New Jersey this September, and it was great. It was the first like just Smallville con that they'd done, or like the one in a long time. So Michael, Tom, Erica, Kristen, Laura Vandervoort, myself, John Glover, who played Lionel, and I think that was it. But it was a really good group. Like it was so fun to get that group together, and obviously for the fans and stuff too. It's been a long time since the show's
yeah.
been on the air, but to get all these people together, it feels like almost yesterday. I mean, we all look a little bit older, but other than that, it feels like no time has passed.
So I know that Michael and Tom were talking about potentially doing an animated series of Smallville. So if that
Hmm.
actually happened and got green lit, would you be up for playing your role in that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I've actually never done any voice work like that, like big animated things. I'd love to get my feet, dip my toe into something like that for sure. Yeah.
That's amazing. And then I've got a question here from a director. So I had a director on recently called Jonathan Bowen. He directed The Comic Shop with Tristan Mays and Jesse Metcalf.
Oh,
And
oh, right, right.
he's messaged me and said, ask him about The Shrine. I
Okay.
thought he was great in that underrated little horror movie that left an impression. He's a really good actor. Do you know what? I haven't
Oh,
watched the Shrine, and I've looked it up, and it's definitely first on my list. So, what's that about? And yeah, I mean,
yeah, it was these a director and writer named John Knotts and Trevor. Oh, what was his name? Oh, it's been such a it was probably 2010 when we did it. So forgive me, Trevor. It's been 15 years, but these guys from Ottawa who self-financed the movie, and it's basically about this journalist, her photographer boyfriend, and another journalist who travel to Poland to sort of photograph these and do this research on. I can't remember if it was like some sort of story. Anyways, they end up discovering this shrine and this small village that's protecting this demonic secret, and things go haywire. But it was really, really well done. The John, the director, and like what they did with their budget, I thought was amazing. Smaller budget film, but like really, really, there's the shrine itself.
there we
So
go.
if you're into horror movies and demonic sort of possession stuff, it's a really fun film.
I love horror movies, possessions. I mean, Natasha, the one that she was in with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Oh, That was like anything
Yeah.
with kids in it freaked me out. I don't know why, but I just
Well,
can't go there. So, like I asked Mercedes, this is the next challenge on, is that who do you think from SkyMed I should have on the show next?
Well, because I know you mentioned the two people that haven't been on it. Do I have a coin? I was going to do a coin toss here. Well,
Do it
you
with
know
the
what?
cat.
Because I spoke. What's that?
Do it with the
Do it with
cat.
the cat.
I suppose you couldn't because they
Uh,
always go on their feet. So
Yeah, they're always going to land on their feet. Because I mentioned him in the interview, and because I do really like the character, maybe Thomas. Maybe Thomas would come on. But Keon would be a great interview too. So it's kind of like I would have flipped the coin on that one because they're both fun guys. They're both smart guys. So either way, I don't think you can lose.
So I'll put the challenge out for them. But Aaron, you've been a great guest. You really have. And it's been an absolute pleasure to finally have you on the show. You know, enjoy your podcast with Michael Rosenbaum. Again, he's a guest that I've always wanted to have on my show, to thank him for all the inspiration and you know, sort of the guidance as well for his show. And I'm a massive
Well,
fan. Sorry?
I'll pass that on to him, and you never know. I'll say, listen, I can put you in contact with a gentleman who would love to have you on his podcast. So
that would be
I'll put it out there.
amazing. That would be absolutely that would be definitely a bucket list. A bit like you. You know, I've got you on. I can tick you off now. But thank you so much, Aaron. I'll say goodbye properly in a moment. But thank you for everyone that's been watching. I've got to do that youngster thing now where I've got to say, you know, hit subscribe and follow. Because believe it or not, even though you don't look 45, I'm 45. And I don't know about, I'm sure you're not like me, where when you get up from the sofa, you've got to do it in like 3 stages and you make funny noises. I think when you
I
get to
definitely make the funny noise. There's a lot of grunting, groaning that I don't know where the hell that came from, but it's there. Yeah.
Excellent. But yeah, thank you everyone that's been watching, and we're going to be back next week, hopefully with Thomas, if not another great guest. But thank you so much for watching.
Keon.
Oh, Keon, yeah, definitely. And then keep an eye out for Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum for the episode with Aaron on it, which I'll be listening to as well. But don't go anywhere. I'll say goodbye properly in a second, Aaron. We're going to say goodbye. Thank you.